Welcome to our /best of Predator updates, where sometimes the stories aren't just messy, they're straight up uncomfortable. In today's video, we've got one guy dealing with a situation that crosses every possible boundary, and another story where a relationship gets secretly tested for nearly a year, without one person even knowing. And honestly, by the end of this, you're probably gonna be asking yourself the same question I did. How do you even come back from something like this? Story 1. My friend's daughter won't stop hitting on me. So this first post comes from a 43-year-old guy, and right away, you can tell he's genuinely stuck in a situation that just keeps getting worse the longer it goes on. He explains that he has a close friend, also in his mid-40s, and he's known this guy's daughter basically her entire life. She's now 18, and over the past year or so, something started to change in a way that made him extremely uncomfortable. At first, everything seemed completely harmless. She would message him occasionally on Facebook or Instagram, asking normal questions like what kind of car she should buy, or what she could get her dad for his birthday. And since he's into things like camper vans and woodworking, it made sense that she'd come to him for advice. But then one night, things took a strange turn. She messaged him while she was out partying with friends, saying she didn't feel safe and didn't want to tell her dad where she was, and asked if he could come pick them up. Now, in that moment, he didn't hesitate. He saw it as helping someone he'd known forever, especially if they were in a situation that might be unsafe. So he drove out to get them. But when he arrived, she came outside with her friends and told him everything was fine now, that the people causing trouble had already left. He stayed for a few minutes just to make sure everything really was okay, then told her to call him if anything changed and went home. And honestly, up to that point, everything still seemed normal. But later that night, after he got back and settled in, she sent him a photo. And not just any photo, a revealing one of her and her friend. He immediately told her that wasn't appropriate, and that he didn't appreciate it, and she quickly apologized, claiming it was sent to the wrong person. So he let it go, thinking it was just a weird mistake. But then, it happened again. A couple of weeks later, another late-night message, another inappropriate photo, and this time she said it was actually meant for him. The next morning, she brushed it off as a drunken dare and apologized again. And this slowly became a pattern. Every time she went out drinking, she would send something inappropriate, and then the next day she'd apologize like nothing happened. At this point, he stopped responding altogether, hoping that ignoring it would make it stop. But instead, it escalated. Last summer, things crossed from uncomfortable into something much more serious. He was at her parents' house for a barbecue, just a normal gathering, and at one point he went upstairs to use the bathroom. When he came out, she was standing there on the landing, almost like she had been waiting for him. She told him she had closed the baby gate at the bottom of the stairs so they would hear if anyone came up. And that's when he realized, this wasn't accidental anymore. He tried to move past her, but she physically blocked him, putting her hands against the wall so he couldn't get by. Eventually she moved, laughing like it was a joke, but for him, that moment made it very clear that this situation wasn't going to resolve itself. After that, the messages got worse. It wasn't just late-night drunken texts anymore. She started offering favors in exchange for things like rides or helping with her car, and at one point she even showed up at his house unannounced. That's when he finally told her he was going to speak to her dad. And her response? You can't now, it's gone on too long. Which, honestly, just made everything worse. Because she wasn't wrong. He had waited, hoping it would stop on its own, and now he didn't know how to bring it up without it sounding like something completely different. But eventually, he realized he had no choice. So he called his friend and asked if they could talk in person. When he got there, he didn't sugarcoat anything. He told them everything, showed them the messages, explained how long it had been going on, and made it clear that he wanted it to stop. And the reaction he got was not what he expected. The dad was clearly uncomfortable and stopped reading after just a few messages. But the mom? She brushed the entire thing off. She basically said this was normal behavior for a young woman, that they were both adults, and that it wasn't a big deal. At one point, she even described her own daughter's behavior as Just a young woman in heat. Which is insane. He tried to explain that this wasn't mutual, that he didn't want anything to do with it, and that it felt like harassment at this point. But she continued to minimize it. Eventually, the dad walked him out and apologized, saying he'd talked to his daughter. And for a moment, he felt relieved. Until later that night, when she messaged him again. This time apologizing, but also saying that the offer was still there. And the worst part? Her mom knew. Story 2. My fiancé's family tested me for a year. So the second story comes from a 24-year-old woman who's been in a relationship with her fiancé for almost 4 years. And up until recently, she genuinely believed everything in their relationship was solid. They split expenses fairly, they got along well, shared interests, and she had a good relationship with his family. At least, that's what she thought. Because one day, completely out of nowhere, her fiancé sat her down and told her something that changed everything. He told her that his entire family had been secretly testing her for the past 11 months. Their goal? To make sure she wasn't a gold digger. And the way they did it was honestly kind of disturbing. They created this narrative that he might lose his job. His parents would casually bring up layoffs, talk about how unstable the tech industry was, and slowly build this idea that his financial situation wasn't secure. And she believed it. Not because she was naive, but because she trusted them. So she adapted. She started budgeting more carefully, cutting back on spending, mentally preparing herself to support him if things got worse. She reassured him constantly, told him they would be okay no matter what, and made it clear that she wasn't in the relationship for money. All of that was part of the test. And after nearly a year, his family decided she had passed. They told him she was good enough to marry. And he told her this like it was good news. Even going as far as upgrading their honeymoon to a luxury resort as some kind of reward. But instead of feeling relieved, she felt completely humiliated. Because this entire time, she wasn't just living her life. She was being watched, evaluated, judged. And what made it worse was that her fiancé knew about it. He admitted that he found out early on and chose to let it continue just to see what she would do. That betrayal alone was enough to shake everything. Because it meant he didn't fully trust her either. And suddenly, every interaction she had with his family felt fake. Every comment. Every conversation. Every moment. It was all part of something she never agreed to be in. Eventually, after a lot of thinking, she made a decision. She called off the wedding. Not because she didn't love him, but because she realized that trust, once broken like that, isn't something you can just fix overnight. And more importantly, she realized that before they could even think about a future together, they both had things they needed to figure out on their own. And honestly, both of these stories kind of leave you with the same feeling. Sometimes, it's not about whether someone had good intentions or not. It's about boundaries, respect, and whether the people around you are actually willing to protect that. Because once that line gets crossed, it's really hard to pretend it never happened. But let me know what you think. Was the first guy right to wait as long as he did before saying something? And in the second story, would you have stayed or walked away? If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe for more Reddit stories just like this. And I'll see you in the next one.